This conference will now be recorded.
Hello all, good morning, welcome back. So today we are going to start DevOps. Fine, so first DevOps session. So everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Fine. Before going to tools, so before learning tools, what we are going to do in DevOps? Okay, what are the what we are going to automate the tools? What is automation? So where we do automation? What kind of applications will automate? Okay, how we deploy our artifacts? What is artifact? So what is the process? Okay, so before going to tools, we'll try to understand. So here process is important. So first we'll try to understand the process, then we'll go to subject. Okay, fine. Deployment architecture. So in deployments, so the architecture would be like, so normally our role is continuous deployments. As a DevOps engineer, our role is continuous deployments. As a DevOps engineer, we deploy the code. So we deploy the applications. Okay, so developers will build the code and they modify the code in local Git repository. Okay, once development is completed, testing is completed. Okay, so the code will be pushed to GitHub, right? We know that we discussed in demo sessions, right? So in our course, we'll start with Git. In our course, we'll start with Git. Okay, fine. So here we have, this is a local Git. So we can say Git local. Git local. Fine. So here we have X developer and this is Y developer. So both the developers are working on the same requirement. Okay. So once they develop the code in their local, okay. So once development is completed, testing is completed, then they will push the code to GitHub. This flow is very, very important. So this flow will follow entire DevOps. This is GitHub. Fine. So here developers are working on their requirement, development activity. So normally when we develop or when we create any file in our local, for example, in my desktop. So local means local workspace. So this is a local Git means local workspace. We'll create one workspace in our local, in our laptop or desktop, and we start working on the development. We means developers. మనం develop చేయం. So we don't develop any code. Okay. So we are DevOps engineers. We don't develop any code. We means developers. Okay. Developers will create one workspace in their local. Okay. In that they will configure local Git repository and they will start working on that. So for example, here two developers are working on their local. So in local, normally we don't face any issues. For example, in my local, I create one folder here. Okay, so this is some test folder. Inside of this test folder, I add some files. So I add some text files, text document. So I put the name something, text something, test one. So when I modify anything in this document, when I add any content in this document, or when I delete any content in this document, so those changes will be tracked. Track avachandra, track avutaya. In my local laptop, in my desktop, when I create any folder or file, if I modify anything, those changes will be tracked or not.
Windows you cannot pass.
It is not possible, right? So the changes will not be tracked. Fine. So that is why, so what we will do here, okay, so we will initialize as a local Git repository. So when developers are working on local workspace development activity, so we'll initialize as a local Git. Means what will happen? Git will track the changes. Who did what? Who did changes? When did changes? What purpose they did changes? Git will track the changes. So here, basically, what is Git? Before going to other tools, basically, what is Git? Git is a repository tool or version control tool. So basically, what is repository? So where we save our data, where we save our source code is nothing but repository. Okay, so it can be any data. It can be binary files, image files, video files, whatever data you want to save. Where you want to save, where we save the data is nothing but repository. So version control, what is version control? So whatever changes are doing by developers, that changes will be tracked. The version control system will track. So how it will track? Based on these comments. Who did changes? When did changes? And what purpose they did changes? Based on these comments, it will track the versioning. So who did changes? Rama did changes. When did changes? By 8 a.m. IST on 10th June. Okay, he did some changes. And what purpose he did changes? Due to some production issue, prod issue. He did some changes. So Git will allow these comments. Git will allow these comments. Based on these comments, Git will track the versioning. So because in Java normally, so the code will be 100, 200 lines will be there in Java. So for example, one developer wrote some code today. After 1 month, he will come back and check the code. Okay, so he may not understand who developed this code. To avoid that confusion, Git will help you to track the versioning. Who did changes, when did changes, what purpose they did changes. Based on these comments, we can track, we can identify who did changes, who developed this code. Fine. Yeah. So once development is completed here, okay, once testing is completed, the code will be pushed to GitHub. So Git and GitHub both are same functionality. Git is a local repository, GitHub is a remote repository. So functionality wise, both are same. Okay, this is a remote repository. Fine. So in this flow, next tool is Jenkins. So this is Jenkins. So basically, what is Jenkins? What Jenkins will do, and what we are going to do as a DevOps engineer, what we will do on Jenkins. So Jenkins is a CI/CD tool. So continuous integration and continuous delivery tool. So in DevOps, we have multiple tools. Each tool will not communicate other tool. For example, we have Kubernetes, Ansible, Maven, okay, Nexus. So many tools we have. Docker, right? So all the tools are individual tools. One tool will not communicate other tool. So here Jenkins will communicate all the tools. It will integrate all the tools by installing plugins. Okay, Jenkins is a mediator tool. For example, so my code is available in GitHub. So my code is available in GitHub here. I want to pull the code from GitHub to Jenkins. So before pulling this code, what I need to do? I need to install GitHub plugin in Jenkins. Here I need to install GitHub plugin. Then only I will able to communicate GitHub from Jenkins. So I need to install one plugin in Jenkins, GitHub plugin. Then only it will allow you to pull the code from GitHub to Jenkins. So Jenkins will work based on plugins only. For example, I have other tools. So if I want to connect other tools, that tool plugin I need to install on Jenkins. Then only I'll able to communicate other tools. So Jenkins is a mediator tool. It will communicate all the tools. It will integrate all the tools by installing plugins. Plugin is nothing but it is a installer. It is a package, right? So for example, my code is available in GitHub. I want to pull the code from GitHub to Jenkins. What I need to do here? So I prepare a job in Jenkins. Here I prepare one job. So Jenkins will work based on jobs. So we need to prepare some jobs and we need to trigger some jobs. Yeah, so I prepare one job in Jenkins. So I trigger this job. So once I trigger this job, the code will be pulled from GitHub to Jenkins. So whatever code developed by developers, so once they push the code into GitHub, so through Jenkins, we can pull the code from GitHub to Jenkins. So once we pull this code, okay, so from GitHub to Jenkins, so this code is a raw code. Normally, developers will prepare a raw code only. Raw code means unstructured code. Okay, raw code normally will not understand by application servers. So this ultimately what we have to do, once we pull the code, this code we need to deploy on application servers. So here we have some application server, which is, for example, Tomcat server. This is Tomcat server. Tomcat server, right? So whatever code we receive from GitHub to Jenkins, that we need to deploy on application servers. So this is the raw code. Basically, this is raw code. This raw code will not understand by application servers. If you try to deploy this code, so this application servers will not understand. That is why what we will do. So we are going to integrate one more tool, okay, which is Maven. So this is Maven. Why we require Maven? What is Maven? So why we need to integrate Maven in our environment? Okay. So Maven is a build tool. Maven is a build tool, so which will generate artifacts. Artifacts. What is artifact? So which will generate artifacts. So here we can write that. So space is congested, right? Fine. So Maven is a build tool which will generate artifacts. So artifact is nothing but it is a archive file. So archive file means it is a single file, binary file. So for example, my application is Java application. So Maven will generate jar file. Jar means Java archive file. So my application is, for example, web application. It will generate var file, web archive file. For example, we have another application which is enterprise application. It will generate EAR file, enterprise archive file. So based on your application, so it will generate archive files. So whatever applications you have, not only jar, not only EAR, not only var. So whatever applications you have, based on that application, it will generate artifacts. Artifact is nothing but it is a archive file, single file, binary file. So it will convert into binary file. So once we receive the code from GitHub to Jenkins, so that code will be converted by Maven as a single file, like var file or jar file or ER file. So once it is generated var file as a archive file, then Jenkins will push that var file into Tomcat server. Here deployment will be happen. We deploy the code on application server. Here we deploy the code. Fine. Any questions up to here, anyone? So clear and clear. So up to here it is clear to you. Fine.
Hi Ram, I have a small doubt here. So you said that we have to create the job once the code is built, right? So the job will be created only once, or every time when the code is pulled, though, so every time we have to create a job there in the Jenkins.
Yeah. So these jobs we create initially and we schedule these jobs. We schedule this. So I'll show you. Okay. So I'll give you more details on this. Okay. So normally these jobs we will create and we will schedule. What will happen here? So we will work on some sprints, sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, like that, right? So if the application is, for example, this is application server. If the application is a live application, what will happen? So whenever developers develop the code in their local, whenever they push the changes to GitHub, immediately Jenkins will, so we'll create some PolSCM job. PolSCM means one type of job that I'll show you in Jenkins. Okay. So that PolSCM, what it will do, whenever changes happen in the GitHub, immediately it will pick and it will convert into var file and it will push to application server. Here deployment will be happen. So this is normally we schedule the jobs. We don't create again and again. We schedule the jobs. Whenever we need it, we can recreate, not an issue. But normally we schedule this job. Fine. Any other questions? Anyone?
I have one question. In small scale organization, we don't have GitHub or Jenkins. We're using some server application to deploy the code. So in that case, how will you manage all these things?
Yeah, this Jenkins, without Jenkins, we need to push manually. If you have Jenkins, so normally we create jobs. Jenkins will manage all the things, CI/CD things like pulling code, pushing code, and deploying. Everything will be taken care by Jenkins. If you don't have Jenkins, normally we need to copy this code and we need to deploy. We need to paste into this and we need to deploy that.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So this is the live process. So can you mute yourself? Yeah, this is a live application, live process. Okay. So normally what will happen here? So we will have sprints, sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, like that, right? So in sprints, what will happen? So some Sprint 1 is developing some code. Okay, so that is not for live application. In that case, so whenever Jenkins push the code to Maven, Maven will generate war file, jar file, or ER, whatever file. So that files will save in some repository. Okay, not directly push to application server. So we'll add one more repository here. Okay, so which is a Nexus repository. So we can call it as Nexus Artifactory tool. Nexus Artifactory means Nexus repository. So in this Nexus, what we will do, we will create some repositories, different repositories. Okay, like Sprint 1, Sprint 2, Sprint 3. So whatever war files are generated here by Jenkins, by Maven, so that will be saved in this repositories. Okay, so because this is not, for example, if you have a live application, so directly move to application server. Some applications not like that. So they will save in Nexus. Here they will save war files, jar file, ER file, whatever files. So whenever they have deployments, by the time they will push these war files into application servers and they deploy the code. So application server can be Tomcat server, JBoss server, WebSphere server. It can be any server. Okay. So some war files will be saved under Nexus repository. Fine. So here you have some question. So why we need to take another repository tool? We have already Git repository, right? Git also repository tool. Git and GitHub, this GitHub also repository. So why we need to go for another repository? Here we can save, right? This war file, jar file, ER file. So why we need to go for another repository? So why we can't save this war files into GitHub? Anyone having any question? Anyone having an idea about this? Any developers are there in our batch? So this war files we can't save in GitHub. Why we can't save? Fine. So GitHub is having some thumb rules. Okay. So in GitHub normally we can't save more than 100 MB file. More than 100 MB file we can't save in GitHub. Also, GitHub will not allow binary files. Binary files will not allow. Zip files we can't save in GitHub. Why it will not allow? Why we can't save? So before Git we used to use SVN, subversion control. Before Git we used to use subversion control. This is also a repository tool. So by the time, yeah, subversion control will allow all file formats without any size limit, but Git will not allow all file formats, and size limit maximum we can push 100 MB only. So SVN not like that. SVN will allow all file formats without any size limit. So due to that, what happened here? So people used to upload whatever data is there. Their personal data also they used to upload into subversion control. In our project, we used to use SVN 3 years before. 3 years before, we used to use SVN, subversion control. By the time, developers, testers, build and release engineers, everyone used to upload their personal data also into SVN. So movies, audios, whatever data they have. So by the time we used to observe performance issues with the subversion system, subversion server, SVN server. Almost every alternate days we used to observe performance issues. Okay, if the server is not available, how developers will push the code? It is not possible, right? So that is why SVN is failed. Basically, SVN is failed. So due to this, it will allow all file formats without any size limit. Due to that, SVN is failed. So 3 years before we integrated Git. Since 3 years, we haven't observed single issue with the Git. Okay, so SVN and Git differences we'll see once complete the Git. Okay, we'll see the differences. We have so many differences. Okay, yeah, subversion control is failed because of these are the conditions. So Git is having some thumb rules. It will not allow more than 100 MB file, and the binary files it will not allow. That is why we are going to integrate one more tool, which is Nexus Artifactory tool. Nexus will allow more than 100 MB and it will allow binary files. Fine. Yeah. Next one is some sprints will be saved on Nexus Artifactory, and some sprints live application will be live application, so directly deployed on application servers. Okay, so this is basically build and release process. So
Sir, I have one doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, whenever this code get pushed from Jenkins to app server Tomcat, is there any mechanism that it may possible that previous war file will get overwrite, and if some issue happens to production, then to roll back to the old one? How the mechanism works? I mean, before pushing a war file to Tomcat, is there a backup taken from the Tomcat to any other repository like that?
Yeah, fine, good question. So that is why here we are using version control system. Okay, so we'll have versioning. So I'll show you while deploying the code on Tomcat. Definitely I'll show you, so don't worry about it. So we use version control system that will have some versioning. So developers will develop the code pieces wise. Okay, so that pieces will be pushed to GitHub. For example, X developer, Y developer, both are working on the same requirement. So they develop their both will develop same requirement, but so they will develop part wise. Okay, so that parts will be pushed to GitHub. That is the raw format, but it will have some version control. That will be pushed. That will be pulled by Jenkins. So once it is converted into binary format, so it will push to application server. So here, so it will not be override basically. Okay, so we'll have some version control system. So that pieces wise it will push. So here, for example, so I can give you some example. Okay. So for example, we have trends.azure.com. So this is a Reliance Trends site. Okay, so backend what they will do. So this is one digital site. So basically this is one digital site. So backend developers, they will develop the code. For example, so these are the brands. These are the brands. So we have some brand here, some Netplay, something brand is there. So here we have shirts, different shirts, right? So if you open this shirt, so this pricings will be changed sometime. This pricings will be changed. So they put some offers. Okay, see here. So this is actual price is $699, but they are showing get it for 450 rupees. Okay, so this modifications, who will do this modification? Updates, backend developers will do. So for example, this product is not available. Okay, for example, this all sizes are available, 38, 39, 40, 42, 44. All sizes are not available. All sizes are available here. So if, for example, 38 size is not available, what they will do? They will update here. It will be grayed out. This will be grayed out. Means this size will not be available. We can't book this size, this product with this 38 size. Right? The same way, this is, for example, live application. So developers do that maintenance projects, maintenance activities. Like, so they maintain the applications. So not only Reliance Trends, so Flipkart, okay, so many sites are there, so many websites, so many applications are there. They will maintain. So keep on, they will update the changes here. They will push the changes. They develop in their local, they will push the changes here. It will be updated. This is a live application scenario. But some applications, new applications, when they develop, they will save that WAR file into Nexus. Whenever deployment is there, by the time this WAR files, they will push into application server, they deploy the application. It's clear, right? Yeah, this is basically build and release process. But currently we have automation tools. Okay, so automation tools are nothing. We have different automation tools which are like Ansible, Chef, and Puppet. So these are the automation tools. Chef is not using currently, so very few projects. Okay, sorry, Puppet is not using currently, very less project they are using. Chef is using some projects. Okay, 40% or 50% projects they are using. So most of the project they are using Ansible. So because Ansible is very advanced tool, so which is very secure tool and a cost-effective tool compared with Chef and Puppet, it is cost-effective, less costing. So that is why. So most of the project teams they are migrating to Ansible, right? So yeah, here this deployments normally using Ansible we deploy the code. So in build and release process, so we integrate Ansible here. Here we integrate Ansible. So Jenkins will trigger the job. Ansible will deploy the code into application server. This is Ansible. Yeah, before discussing this, let us try to understand what is Ansible, what Ansible will do. Yeah, so before discussing about Ansible, I give you a small requirement here. For example, I have 1,000 servers. 1,000 servers I have. On this 1,000 servers, I want to install Java. I want to install Java on 1,000 servers. So what is the process? These servers are not in automation. So these servers are bare servers. Bare servers means physical servers or virtual servers. So we are not using any scripts. We are not using any automation to deploy Java. So manual process. How can we install Java here on 1,000 servers? Let us take single server, one server. So how to install Java on this single server? First, we need to take RDP, right? If the server is Windows server, we need to take RDP, remote desktop. So we need to connect the server, right? So if the server is Linux server, we'll connect through PuTTY session, right? So the same way, 1,000 servers we need to connect, right? And once we connect this server, so we need to give username, password, right? IP address, username, password, we need to give, right? So once we log in into server, to log in this server, we need to give username, password, right? So once we log in into server, so we need to check whether Java is installed or not. So if the Java is not installed already, no need to worry about. If the Java is not installed, we need to install Java. So to install Java, normally in real projects, what we will do, we don't use any pen drives, we don't use any CDs, we don't download from internet also. So we'll have some firewalls. Firewalls will not allow you to download, right? So normally what we will do in real projects, we'll have some share folders. Share folders. Share folders means central repository, central path, share paths. From there, we can copy our software into target server. Okay. So copy software from share folder. So we copy the software, Java software from share folder. And once we copy and paste into target server, then we install Java, right? Once we install the Java, so we need to set environment variables. So without setting environment variables, Java will not work properly, right? So once we set this environment variables, finally, we need to reboot server. Reboot means restart. So we reboot server. So these are the steps we are going to perform. If you want to deploy Java on a single server, these are the steps we need to follow, right? So for example, if the person is having 2 to 3 years experience, how much time it will take to perform Java installation on a single server? How much time it will take for single server?
20 to 30 minutes.
20 to 30 minutes. If the person is expert, it will take 15 minutes. So let us say 10 minutes. 10 into 1000 servers we have, right? So 10,000 minutes. So if you want to deploy Java on 1000 servers, it will take 10,000 minutes. So in our project, we have development servers, 1200 servers, QA servers, 1500 servers, and production servers, so nearly 2000 servers we have. So that much of servers, that many servers, if you want to deploy Java, will take a lot of time. If you take Google or UHG, that companies, okay, so one of my friend is working with UHG, United Health Group. So they have only development environment, 10,000 servers. Okay. So if you perform this manual way, it will take a lot of time. So normally every day we'll get so many requests. So in our project, everyone will get minimum 30 requests per day. If you are doing manual way, it will take a lot of time. So once we receive the request ticket, it will have some SLA. So we need to close the ticket within the SLA. Otherwise, what will happen? The ticket will be breached. So escalation will be happened. So if you are doing manual way, it will take a lot of time. That is why we have automation tool. Different automation tools we have. To avoid this situation, we have automation tools which are like Ansible, Chef, and Puppet. So the same requirement, how can we achieve using Ansible? We'll try to understand. So for example, this is my Ansible server. So these are the development. We have development and QA servers and production servers. Different servers we have. So development servers we have dev servers, 250 servers, for example. So QA servers, 250 servers. And the production servers, we have 500 servers. So I want to deploy Java on all these servers using Ansible. Okay, so to deploy Java, first we need to authenticate from Ansible server to development servers, QA servers, production servers. So from here, Ansible server, first we need to authenticate. Authentication should be happen. So without authentication, we can't deploy Java. First we need to authenticate. So we use here SSH authentication. In Ansible, we use SSH authentication. So in authentication, we have two types. First one is key-based authentication. Second one is user-based authentication. Two types of authentications we have, key-based and user-based. So in real time, we use key-based only. In our test lab also, we use key-based only. So once we establish this authentication, okay, so to establish this authentication, what we will do, here we generate one key. So keygen command here is keygen. So one key will be generated here in Ansible. That key we will paste in all the servers. Once we paste this key on the servers, so authentication will be established. Okay. So once authentication is established, so we need to prepare some inventory groups. Yeah. So here we prepare some inventory groups. So basically, what is inventory? Inventory is nothing but it is a server information. Okay. So here, for example, we have development servers, dev servers. Dev servers, we have 250 servers. So we need to provide 250 IP addresses here in the inventory. We need to update the inventory. So next one is the QA servers. We have QA servers, 250 servers. So we need to enter 250 IP addresses. So after that, we have production servers, prod servers. So we have 500 servers. So we need to update all the IPs here. So once we prepare the inventory groups, okay. Next one is we need to prepare .yml script. .yml script, which is nothing but playbooks. We'll call it as playbook. Okay. So script is very simple scripts we use in Ansible. So that scripts will be provided by Ansible only. We no need to prepare any Ansible script. Okay. So everything will be available inside of the Ansible server. So we can pick from there and we can customize that and we can use that. Okay. For example, to deploy Java, the script is like, I'll show you sample script here. So this is the script. So this is syntax. Okay. So this is actual script. Copy this. Paste here. So this is the script. So this first line is for our understanding. So let me 1 second. Yeah. So this first line is for our understanding. Okay. Version. What is the version we are going to install? This is for our understanding. This is not required basically. So this is actual script to deploy Java. Okay. M:\name equal to Java-1.7.0-OpenJDK space state equal to present. So to uninstall Java. So in place of present, we use absent. Okay. Fine. So this is only the script to deploy the Java. So once we prepare the script, okay. Next one is so connect one option will be there. So if you want to deploy Java on only development servers, we can give dev and we can trigger the playbook. Once we trigger the playbook, Java will be installed on this development environment. Okay. So if you want to deploy on dev and QA environments, you can give like this and you can trigger the playbook. Or else if you want to deploy Java on all the servers at a time, you can give all and you can trigger the playbook. Once you trigger the playbook, Java will be installed on all the servers within 5 minutes. It is a parallel process. So all the servers will be installed within 5 minutes. Once install this Java, so Ansible server will provide some report. How many servers deployed, how many servers are pending, how many servers are failed, how many servers are unreachable. So it will provide you some report. Okay. So based on that, if any servers are not reachable, so we can segregate that and we can redeploy them. Okay, not only 1,000 servers, if you have 10,000 servers, 20,000 servers, you can deploy Java within 5 minutes only. So this we can call it as single click deployments. In Ansible, when we discuss about Ansible, I'll show you. So by single click, we can deploy the code, we can deploy applications, we can deploy a number of applications within 5 minutes. So by single click. So that we can call it as single click deployments. Fine. Any questions in this? Any questions on Ansible? Fine. So this Ansible is integrated here. Okay, in this flow, Ansible is integrated here. So we trigger the job to the Ansible. Ansible will deploy the code on Tomcat server, application server. Okay, so this is build and release process. Not only deployments. So currently, whatever we are doing, manual activities in real time. So all the activities we can perform using Ansible. Ansible will do whatever manual activities we are doing. All the activities, IP reservations, file movements, a report generate, okay, data copy from one place to other place. Even though EC2 instance creation also we can create from Ansible. EC2 instance we can create from Ansible. We can stop instance using Ansible. We can start instance. We can terminate instance using Ansible. Right? So many activities it will perform. So Ansible is very secure tool and it is cost effective compared with other tools, other Chef and Puppet. Fine. So this is the flow. Normally in build and release, we use this flow. In build and release process, we use this. And apart from this, we have another tools which are like Docker, Kubernetes, and Terraform. So these tools we don't integrate with Jenkins. Normally in real time also we don't integrate. Even Ansible also we no need to integrate with Jenkins. Ansible will work individual basically. Some companies, very few companies, they integrated with Jenkins. So in our test lab, if required, we can integrate, but not required basically. It will work individual. So Docker is a containerization tool. Here Docker is a containerization tool. Container is like, it is a box. Container means box. We can move anywhere, that box. We can use anywhere. Okay. So Kubernetes is advanced to Docker. So in Docker, we'll call it as containers. In Kubernetes, we'll call it as pods. Pod is nothing but it's a group of containers. Okay. So Terraform is infrastructure automation. Using Terraform, if you want to create 1,000 servers, within 1 minute we can create using Terraform with all the packages, with all configurations, everything. So this is infrastructure automation. Fine. Yeah. Any questions?
I have a question regarding certification. Sir, actually in the market currently for AWS, there are two types of certification. One is solution architect and one is AWS DevOps. So
Right.
which one you suggest to go for? So not sure actually.
Yeah. So as a DevOps engineer, so we required cloud certifications like, so AWS certified solution architect associate. This is first paper. And if you want to write professional also, this is second paper. We can complete this too. So one is enough to you. No need to worry about second paper. So if you have one certification, it is enough to you. Solution architect associate. This is the certification. As a DevOps engineer, we can complete this. So one paper is enough to you. After getting the job, after switching into project, you can write this. You will have some reimbursement also. Okay. DevOps certifications are not mandatory. At least one cloud certification should be required. So now nowadays competition is so much of competition is there. So for example, 4 people shortlisted for the position. By the time they will check extra things like certification, what are certifications available with the person. They will check that. In our project also, we are recruiting like that. So that is why. So this is first paper. This is second level. AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate and AWS
And-
Certified Solution Architect Professional.
And about, sir, what that AWS DevOps Engineer Professional?
And that is not required basically. So that some people are they don't have knowledge which certification we need to complete. So that is why they are confusing. Okay, so this is enough to you. AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. This is
Okay.
purely cloud certification. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Fine. So from tomorrow onwards, what we will do, we'll start working on Git. Git will take 5 sessions, 5 days. Okay, Git will go deep dive. On Git, we'll go deep dive. What are the real-time challenges, interview questions, everything will be covered. So from tomorrow, we'll start Git. Okay. So don't miss any session from tomorrow. So these are very, very important. Git, Jenkins, Maven, these are basic tools. These are very important. Okay, fine. So we stop here for today. Any other questions, anyone? Fine. So we stop here for today. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.